Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think that Bill come up with a reachable target here, and I don't think though that we need to just shelve the rest of the plan. There's great opportunity there, and with the plan, I think that gives us the opportunities to go for whatever block grants or whatever might come available. We had our recent census stuff that come through that may have changed the way we may receive some grants. I don't know if it applies to this necessarily, but that may free up money in other places as well. I would make a motion that we task the staff and the mayor to try and work this recommendation into the budget.
The 5-year plan.
This 5-year plan, so that we've and I agree with Go ahead and flash that up there.
I just want to get the whole recommendation up there. I was only showing part of the slide.
Right, but yeah, and I do think that the North Entry project is the priority along with the South, because like Walter says, where a lot of these parents coming from, we'll face it, they're coming from Boise. Who do we hate? And they probably hate them too, so they're going to bring them up here. So anyway, that rambling motion, I guess. So I would restate it here. I'd make a motion that we task the staff and the mayor to include these recommendations into the 16 budget, and we'll see what happens during the workshop.
I'd second that, but follow up with more comments, if I might.
Okay, go ahead.
Clearly, this is going to take some budgetary work, and when we start a budget here in the next few months, it finally gets approved in August, September time, and time to start October 1st. But I'd like to also explore the possibility of recouping that $20,800 or something and start in on this year with what we can do with that much money.
Absolutely.
In terms of meeting Objective 1 and Objective 2, the starting in on weed control, especially up on the North Main, and also reducing the sign clutter. I was noticing as I rolled in from the north the other day that our very own Tree City USA sign, as you roll in, is smack in front of the Welcome to Moscow sign. You have a hard time saying Welcome to Moscow because of our tree sign. Some rearrangement of signs, and even the service club signs, especially out on the west entrance, could be accomplished. And I think getting a start with some kind of identified money that we might have on hand now before we get well into growing season and have to chase after the weeds, but get in front of the little buggers, Parks and Rec, Dwight, would also be a good idea. And so in addition to studying this for inclusion in the budget, I'd also like to see something worked in possibly through recouping that Gary will object to, but see what we could do with the leftover money from the study.
Yeah, you want to comment on that, Gary?
I'm certainly not objecting to it. That money, of course, would have to be appropriated. We have to open the budget. However, last year we hired the weed control done. That was done within existing resources that we have in the budget.
I'm sorry, Gary, did what?
It was the funds that we used to take care of the weeds last year was done within the existing maintenance budget. So we'll likely be able to do that again this year, Art. The funds that in those sort of line items, they just don't roll over. They're placed in, if there is fund balance, it's placed in capital projects. The line item that funded the study that Bill, the architect, the city entranceway study, was funded at $35,000, of which, as Bill indicated, about $14,000 was expended. $7,500 of that was approved by the council to be utilized for participation in the Legacy Crossing market analysis study. So there's about $13,000 that was transferred into capital projects. I guess what I would recommend, that if the direction from the council, and it doesn't even need to be part of the motion, if the council wants to direct staff to come up with a plan for weed control and direct us to bring something to council, we can certainly do that. And if we need additional funding, we can bring that back to council. Additionally, the sign clutter is something that we can assess through the Public Works Department and might be able to be handled, at least begin to be handled. I can't see that costing a lot of money at this point. Have them, obviously the task force, the group, looked at it, and in their opinion, there's sign clutter that can be mitigated. Let's turn that over to Public Works, have them assess it and see what can be done. When we first put the entry signs up years and years ago, there were service signs all the way up and down North and South Main. It took us years, but we finally put those all on one big omnibus sign, which isn't as attractive as some would like, but it's certainly more attractive than having 12 service club signs like a Barbasol, Burma Shave signs. So that's what, yeah, Barbasol, Burma Shave, whatever. Anyway, and that was one of the reasons that those came up as well. So there are some ways to do this. But again, I'm not sure that that having the extra funds or reappropriating them at this point makes sense until we determine what the cost would be for that.
John had a,
We're talking at this point of a 5-year project, 57,000 down to 29,000 per year. So if we start this, we pretty much have to continue with it, and we cannot, as far as I know, we cannot appropriate money for year 5 until we get to year 5.
Well, there's a couple, if I may, a couple of ways you can approach that. If the council wants to set that much money aside in capital projects and allocate it out year to year, you're certainly free to do that in the annual budget. I think what John's referring to is we aren't allowed to, you're not allowed to bind future councils by incurring debt outside of a single budget year. In this case, the council certainly can adopt this as the plan, and it will come forward to you in the budget every year as you weigh your priorities. Just as the sidewalk program, council came up with the sidewalk program that they approved, we bring that to you every year, and it's funded. Council reviews it, determines if that's what they want to do. The street maintenance program, we've gone from an overlay program to an omnibus street maintenance program. Council approved that. That's what comes to you every year. So in that aspect, certainly if the council wants to pursue this proposal, we can certainly put pen to paper, bring that in the budget process, and say this is step 1 of a 5-phased approach.
Mr. Mayor?
Walter?
Gary, I think I heard you just say that the city, I'm not sure you said the council, because I don't remember doing it, appropriated the money for the Legacy Crossing marketing study out of the already identified funds for this project. Did the council specifically do that, or did the staff use those funds? I know we authorized the marketing study. I get that.
Yeah. We brought it.
I don't remember that we did it as reach over into the Entryway Beautification project funds and take those funds to do the URA marketing study.
If I may.
Go ahead.
At the time we brought the marketing study forward, we had a 3-phased approach to it. The university, the city, university I think was 12.5, city was 7,500, and the balance was paid by the Urban Renewal Agency. We brought that to council. Bill had indicated at that time that he wasn't going to utilize the
I remember approving that. I agree. I just didn't remember the part where we said the money we were going to use or these other previously identified funds.
We identified the funding source as being the Bill's planning or professional services line item.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Walter? Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure whether we've got a clean motion on the floor or a clean second. There's been
Well, here's what we got.
more discussion and expansion of Dan's original motion.
Here's what the motion said, and Stephanie, you can correct me if I'm wrong. The motion that Dan made was to approve this 5-year plan into the budget with the staff and the mayor working towards this for the next budget year coming up this summer. Is that correct?
Right.
And it was seconded by Art.
Right.
Is that pretty much what we got over there?
Well, I didn't, Art said he would second it, but he was interested in doing this other stuff, so I wasn't.
Well,
sure
yeah,
if he
but
was
all the other stuff that Art
That
brought
falls under
up,
discussion, because if I didn't say it then, I was likely going to be shut out. So
and that was a discussion part, that wasn't part of the motion, though. That was,
That would have had to have been an amendment, and it wasn't.
no.
It was not an
Seconded
amendment. Nope.
He did second it.
You
I
intended
seconded
to
it
second?
without amendment, but
Okay.
with further discussion.
There's no amendment to the
Well,
motion.
As a part of further discussion, I'd like to ask Bill a question
Okay.
about this. Okay, we've got the 5-year plan there, and then we've got the other steering committee recommendation about making a design bid build project out of the north end. So would that be a separate thing, or is some of that included in the 5-year plan, in the planting of trees and whatnot that would go on, where it's not specific? Would some of that be on the north end, or would I don't see how that ties in.
Correct. So if you were to do the north entry as a separate project, you possibly could, so it's not incorporated in here. The cost estimate for the north enhancement was just over $80,000 in total cost. The steering committee suggested tapering it down to something closer to a $50,000 project, so scaling it down slightly, but still moving forward under the design bid build model. This cost proposal really anticipated doing all of the sites, so the quantity of plant materials and trees and so forth that were anticipated in the material list was equal to the number of plantings in all of the 8 project sites. So you could reduce this slightly, or you would complete at year 2.5 rather than all the way through the 3rd year. So there could be some savings in this program if the council chose to go ahead and move forward with the north entry in a different performance model. So there could be some savings in this, but it would be an additional cost that's not shown here. So if you had $50,000, so year 1, if you wanted to budget for that north entry as well as beginning this project, might be the $108,000 would be the first year cost. And then year 2 may be the same, and year 3 you may see a reduction in materials by $15,000 or $18,000 because you've already installed those in year 1 underneath that different model.
So,
Very like that.
so if
Go ahead,
you,
Jim, continue. I'll let Jim continue, then I'll
if you
come
did
over
the
to you,
first
Gary.
3 years and we decided to do the north thing as a separate design bid build project, then we probably would not put any resources into the north out of those first 3 years if we've decided we're going to do that as a separate project, right? So the numbers that are there would be allocated to the rest of the sites, and the north would be on its own.
Correct.
Gary, did you?
Okay, I guess I'm still confused. So I thought what I heard you say is the north project is included in these numbers unless it is split out. If it's split out, those numbers will be reduced by that amount.
They'd be reduced by some amount, but the relative amounts...
$1,000 or something like that.
No, because, well, that's the actual cost if we were to do a full design, hire a landscape out, do design, bid it, and hire a contractor for installation.
Okay.
Estimated cost is $50,000. If we were to do the self-performance of that project, it might be closer to $18,000 to $20,000. And so you would have that reduction of cost from the self-performance total if you were to take that project and advance it and bid it separately.
So just to clarify, so if the decision of the council is to move ahead with a design bid build on the north end, you'll see some commensurate reduction for materials and some labor, but you'll have an expanded cost of $50,000 to $80,000 for the north project.
Correct, and it just depends on where you want to see that reduction of cost, whether you want to see it in year 1 or year 3. You could depending upon where you wanted to distribute that.
Okay, if I may follow up.
Okay, go ahead.
So as far as, and maybe this is for Walter as well as Bill, but as far as the decision or the recommendation for a design bid build, what resources were looked at in making that recommendation? What considerations were made to turn that over rather than do that with our own resources?
I think the recommendation was to accelerate the installation.
Okay.
was to get the north entrance done.
Okay.
The concept was that, I mean, this was a possible self-performance model, but we weren't sure whether the council was going to be interested in pursuing it. If nothing else, the north entry was something that the committee wanted to be prioritized, and so that was really the recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Walter?
Probably a question for the city attorney. Gary used the word omnibus while ago, speaking to the service group's sign thing. And I would like to think that I've got an omnibus motion here that might pick up a lot of this and give the council a chance to say, yes, but we don't like, number 3. You've got a motion and a second on the floor. How can I proceed to get mine before the council?
You'd offer an amendment